Well, good morning and a very warm welcome back to another week on my allotment. It's one of the most miserable days on my allotment I can remember in a long time. When I look back, I've been very lucky this year. We've had a very wet year. But most of the days I've been up here, certainly the Sundays, have tended to be quite dry. We've had showers obviously, and sometimes we've had heavy rain, but I've had long periods of dry weather and I've been able to get out there and do things. Today looks pretty miserable all day. The weather has been atrocious for a long time now. The plot's been flooded several times, standing water. So yeah, it is what it is, and I won't get much done today. I do have a few jobs, but it is Remembrance Sunday. It's a very important day for me, having done 30 years in the army. I don't go and do the services that they have in the towns. I'm not comfortable with the religious aspect of it. But I have my moment up here, and as you will all know, it's more about remembering and respecting those who gave their lives so that you and I could live freely. I have to say, the way this country's going, if we'd have shown the men on the landing craft on D-Day what would happen to their country, they'd have pulled the ramp up, turned around and gone home, I think. But anyway, that's another issue. So I haven't been here for 2 weeks, as you know, and last weekend I went to Scotland, canoeing Loch Lomond with my son-in-law Carl. We had the most fantastic 3 days on Loch Lomond. It's fantastic up there. Loch Lomond is unique because obviously during the winter months and indeed the summer months, Scotland is subject to some pretty atrocious weather, and some of the other lochs and rivers are uncanoeable in extreme weather. But Loch Lomond has a collection of islands at the southern end of it, which give you some lee from the wind. We had magnificent weather, and I'm going to show you a few clips of that in a moment. In fact, the clips of us canoeing on Loch Lomond will form the bulk of this video. It's interesting that I started, we've had a canoe for decades. My children grew up canoeing. They're very comfortable in canoes. They're very competent in canoes. Certainly my older two, who've done more of it. And I've canoed with all my family and friends. I've met people that have become friends canoeing. It's a very important part of my life. I love it. But of course, I went on most of my trips with my dad, and it was really special to be able to spend time with him in the latter part of his life. And we did multi-generational trips, which were special, I know, for my certainly for my older son David, who was involved in far more of them than the others. So yeah, it's been a really important part of my life. And now that my son-in-law has joined the family, he has an enthusiasm for it that is really refreshing, and it warms my heart that I've got somebody else to go with. I've done so many trips on my own. I've asked family and friends who wants to go canoeing, and I end up sat by a Scottish loch in front of the fire on my own, which is equally enjoyable in its own way. But yeah, we had a fantastic time. I'll show you the video and you'll see why. On the plot, I can't do much today. We went down to my mum's house this weekend. It was her birthday, and we had a fantastic day. Her birthday was Friday, and we had a meal in the Harbour Hotel in Chichester, right on the waterfront of Chichester Harbour. No, that's not Chichester, it's Christchurch. Where was I? Christchurch Harbour. Yeah, it was lovely. It's a very nice hotel. Had a lovely meal, so thank you to Susanna and Charlotte for organising that. It was really special. And while we were there, I got the raspberries from her garden. She was asleep at the time, but I did have her permission. So there are two jobs I've got to do today that both involve raspberries. The first one is to plant those plants that I got from my mum. They're autumn fruiting. We've never had any success with them. There was some on the plot when I got the plot. They never really did much. So this is an experiment. We'll see how they fare. But I put the frame up last 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to put them in today. And the other job I want to do is at the back behind the camera, the other side of this shelter, pardon me, are my summer fruiting raspberries, and they are very successful. We always get a good crop of off those every year. And they've been on a sort of a fan-shaped bamboo frame holding them rigid to tie them in, but that has fallen apart. It's been there maybe 3 or 4 years, and its time is up and it needs a new one. There are some very strong winds forecast tomorrow, so if I get it done today, then they'll be braced and ready for what comes. So yeah, I've got a couple of jobs. I've been here a long time now. I've spent at least an hour nodding off in front of the fire. And I don't expect to see anybody up here today because they've got more sense. Anyway, you're very welcome. So without further ado, let's have a brief look at the trip that Carl and I took to Loch Lomond. Probably don't need all the flues as well.
Yeah.
Whose idea was this, Carl?
Yours.
Oh no, it blimmin' wasn't.
Got to go through with it now, though.
You have.
Oh, I'm ready.
1, 2, 3, go! I got further in. What am I having, chef?
You're having 3
You're having
bean...
what you're given, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 bean chilli and rice.
Oh, lovely.
I don't think you've ever had this before, have you?
No, never. It's a completely new dish to me.
There's a lot of it.
Are you a one-trick pony?
I am, yeah. Yeah.
It's a mighty fine-looking trick. Right. I mean, we are not in a rush.
No, no.
Okay. Okay, bring us round to the left. Just going over.
He's got another tick on his head.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
The tick collector. Not ticket collector.
It's 5 now.
Heading across to the tourist mecca that is Luss. We're incredibly lucky with these conditions. It's flat calm the whole way. Wonderful. This was your idea, Carl.
I know.
Oh, is it nice?
That's aching already. I mean, that's...
Oh! I've always wanted to do that to a bloke who's 6'5" and get away with it. That flip-flop's pulled out once, one of those things.
Are you filming now?
It is filming, yeah.
Tropic by Charlotte Jordan. There you go.
All-purpose soap by Tesco.
Hot clean.
It's good enough to eat.
I hope you're hungry because there's a lot of it.
Oh, happy days. In loving memory of our darling wee boy, David, aged 4, forever in our hearts. He drowned in the loch. Terribly sad. Yeah, I did the same. I put them all in the camouflage one.
Yeah.
Then realised there was because it's the exact right amount. Fantastic. Ah,
Ground sheep.
yeah. that will fit in there, won't it? Yeah. I'm just thinking I don't want that. Thanks. Yeah, nice lot there.
No drinks holder, is there?
No, sorry about that, yeah.
No, we're going same again. Oh, we're going to go.
Go straight across. Okay, and over to the right. Well, we've packed up camp. We've had to do 2 trips. The trip you saw earlier in the glorious sunshine was the first trip. We left the tarp up, so we've had an afternoon under the tarp, perfectly dry and sunny. And as we took the tarp down, the heavens have opened and we're now getting wet. We thought we'd do a little bit of a night paddle, so the sun is going down and we've got an hour's paddle ahead of us. Let's hope we can navigate, or we could be here a bit longer. So yeah, a really good trip, and we've got other plans to do more of the similar. Anyway, on the allotment, this is my very modest crop of gourd birdhouse, and as I've mentioned before, these are all grown from plants created from saved seed that I took from one of them last year. So I'm very pleased with that. I shall do the same again this year, but I'm going to speak to Les today because the ones that I put in his golf driving range storeroom cured and saved the best over winter, and in March of next year, if he lets me store them again the same, I will take them out. They'll be very mouldy, much more interesting looking than they are now, and they'll have hardened, the skins will have hardened, the seed will be dry and rattling inside, and I shall varnish them and create bird houses as I did last year or this year. So yeah, that's the crop. They're not really edible. They are grown purely to make bird houses. Right, time to go and get my waterproof from the van, get out in that god awful miserable weather and do some work. Right, for better or for worse, they're in, and even though the ground is soggy, I'm going to go and get a watering can and water them in, just to work the soil in amongst the roots. And because they've been in that bag 24 hours, so they'll need a drink. Well, the rain has not got in the way. It's very light at the moment, and most of those canes are now tied in. Some of the more whippy, thinner ones I'm not too worried about. I might even chop them off in the spring, but that's a much firmer frame, ready to withstand the winds. So that's the raspberry job's done. Right, time for a brew. Another job that can be done this time of year is to go through your stored crops. So up here I've got potatoes, onions and apples. So right now, once I've warmed my hands up with the fire, I'm going to go through all those three crops and just check out if there's any that are rotten, because it will spread to the adjacent fruit or whatever. So every month check your stored crops and make sure they're all still firm, dry and edible. Well, that's all three crops checked, and apart from a couple of the potatoes which have clearly been nibbled by a mouse, everything is fine. And not many of my white onions have kept this year. All the sets bolted, and these are the ones grown from seed, and these are in very good condition. And Cheryl prefers using these to the red onions in cooked food. So this tray's going home with us, or going home with me today. Well, around the plot, the multi-sown Senshu yellow seed onions have bedded in nicely, and I've got some more growing on in the greenhouse to put in there. Even with the irrigation around my plot, it is so wet. I mean, this happens to the gooseberries every year, but they seem to survive. Let's hope they do this year, because I do like gooseberries. Well, I wish I knew what this plant was called. The green manure packet it came out of simply said winter mix, but it's lovely to have some green on the plot. We'll try and find the same thing next year. Well, if you ignore this very sorry looking dead Brussels sprout plant in the foreground, and it may be my imagination, but I think the Brussels have got a lot bigger since I cut the tops off. Again, it might be my imagination, but they look a lot better now. And it's a mix of the usual, is it Crispus I grow, which is the clubroot resistant one, and one I've tried this year, Braemar. It hasn't succumbed to clubroot, but they're not very big. The Crispus ones are bigger. So I shall stick with what I know. I'm happy to say that I have almost 100% germination with the garlic. And the one or two that have not yet germinated, I have total faith that they're just a little bit slower. But yeah, very good. I shall be putting these in the ground soon. Since I cleared up all the old rhubarb leaves, pulled up the membrane and put some more well-rotted allotment compost down, they've sprouted a little, and next to them here, you may not pick it up on the camera, but that water is gently flowing around my plot, being fed in by the pipe that goes across from my neighbour's plot. So the irrigation is working despite the standing water. I guess the answer is it would be a lot worse without it. Still got some leeks to harvest and one tub of flyaway carrots. I have now started collecting leaves in earnest. Where I can, I mow them, but either way they go in that bay. It's quite full at the moment, and there's more waiting to go in. I think leaf mould is one of the most important things you can produce on an allotment. Right, I think sometimes you just have to accept defeat. It is god awful out there. You've seen I've managed to do a few jobs. I'm fairly happy that all my saved crops are okay at where they are. Tiny bit of mouse damage, but I can live with that. And I've spoke to Les. He's going to take my gourds into his storeroom tomorrow afternoon. So I've done what I can, and the beds are getting wetter and wetter. And you know, all I'm doing is causing more damage than I am good. So that's it for my week. I've had a good week. Started with the canoeing and spent the day with my mother and our family yesterday, or the day before actually. So yeah, a good week. The weather's, you know, the forecast is rain right the way through. So not sure how much I'll get up here this week. Not sure how much I'll be able to work, because sometimes, you know, at work the ground becomes so waterlogged I can't do anything in people's gardens. We'll see. Whatever you're doing this week, I hope you have a warm, dry week, and I will see you around next weekend. So look after yourselves until then. Take care. Bye for now.